Koja's group was no longer a group of wandering survivors. They had become something more. Their shelters were stronger. Their fire never died. Their tools were sharper, smarter. Their hands worked together. Their minds shared thoughts through sound, signs, and simple drawings. The memory of the black stone inside the mountain cave lived on. Koja had not returned there again, but its effect remained. The drawings he had made became part of the group's stories. Children copied them on wood and stone. Elders taught their meaning. Koja did not speak like we do today, but he had become a leader, not because of strength, but because he helped the others think. One early morning, while the camp still slept, Koja stood at the edge of a high cliff. Below him, the land stretched wide and far. Trees waved in the wind. The river sparkled under the rising sun. Clouds moved slowly in the sky. Behind him, Lena came and stood quietly. She carried a small basket of fruit. She placed it beside him and smiled. Koja smiled back. They sat together, watching the sky. Suddenly, a soft light moved across the clouds. It was slow and silent. The same light Koja had seen before. Not a star, not the moon. A trail followed it. It vanished quickly. Koja stood up. His heart beat faster. He picked up a stone and began drawing in the dirt. A curve, a light, and a circle. Lena nodded. She had seen it too. It was not the first time. For moons now, strange lights had come and gone. Always silent, always fast. The group began calling them sky fires. Children pointed at them. Elders made simple sounds and marks. These lights were part of their lives now, like rain or sun. Far above Earth, the Ilari ship floated in silence. Inside, Velek stood before the observation screen. They saw us again, he said. They are not afraid. Solon replied. They are becoming curious, said Velek. Tari and entered. And when they are ready, they will look higher. But not yet, said another elder. They are still young. They are young, Velek agreed, but they are looking forward. On Earth, Koja gathered the group near the fire. He picked up a smooth stone and drew a new pattern. It was a shape of their land, river, trees, cave, and mountain. Around it, he added stars and long lines. The group watched closely. One child came forward and added a shape of a hand beside the stars. Others clapped. It was not just a drawing. It was a dream. A shared dream. That day, they began working together on something new. Koja took large stones and placed them in a wide circle. Others brought wood and long branches. They built tall frames with ropes made from vines. At the center, they placed one flat stone with a symbol, a line reaching upward, toward the sky. They did not know what they were building, but they knew it mattered. Each night, they sat around it. The stars above, the fire below. Their stories grew stronger. Their hands moved with purpose. Their hearts stayed brave. Even the youngest ones began shaping stones. They were faster. They remembered more. The spark inside them burned brighter. Time passed. Seasons changed. The rains came and left. The group grew. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Koja sat alone near the tall symbol stone. His hands were older now. His steps were slower. But his eyes still held light. He looked up at the stars. He remembered the fire, the river, the mountain. He remembered the glowing stone in the cave. He remembered the light across the sky. Koja closed his eyes for a moment and saw something not from Earth. A shape, a path, a star. Not in full, not clear, but the feeling stayed. Then he smiled. Lena came and sat beside him. She did not speak. She held his hand gently. In the sky above, the Alluri watched one last time. They are ready for the next step, Velek said softly. They do not need us, said Solon. They never did, replied Turin. They do not have great machines, said another. They do not know science. They do not build cities. But they dream, Velek said. And they look up. "And that is how it always begins," said Taren. Inside the ship, the watchers turned off their screens. Their job was done. They would leave this planet now, but they would return, not as watchers next time, but as equals, because this small group, in this far corner of the world, had proven one thing: they were human. And they were rising. The river was behind them now. Koja's group had built new shelters under tall trees. The land was rich with food. They had water, fruits, and shade. The sky stayed clear, and the stars appeared each night. The fire in the center of their camp burned softly. Life had become better, but Koja still looked toward the mountains in the distance. He often stood on the hills and stared at the high rocks far away. He did not know why, but something inside him felt drawn to that place. The mountain was tall, sharp, and silent. Clouds moved around its peak. Birds circled it every day. One morning, Koja picked up his stone tool and pointed to the mountain. Lena stood beside him. She looked at the same place, then nodded. The others watched. Some followed while some stayed behind. Koja's small group began walking. The land became steep and rough. Sharp stones covered the ground. Trees became thin. The air was cooler. But Koja and his group kept walking. Their feet were tired, but their hearts were full of something new, curiosity. By evening, they reached the base of the mountain. There was a narrow path. Koja led the way. They climbed carefully. At the top of a small rise, they found a cave hidden behind thick rocks. Inside, the air was cold and still. The walls were smooth. The cave was quiet. Koja stepped inside. Then he saw it. A large black stone stood in the center of the cave. It did not look like any other rock. It was tall, smooth, and dark. Its shape was not natural. Its surface had lines, not scratches but marks. The stone felt warm to the touch. Koja placed his hand on it. In that moment, a soft hum filled the cave. His eyes opened wide. He stepped back. The stone glowed faintly. Just for a few seconds. Then it stopped. Lena gasped softly. The others looked afraid, but Koja stepped forward again. He touched it once more. This time no sound came. But deep in his mind, something had changed. A feeling, a memory, a pattern. Koja turned to the wall of the cave. He picked up a piece of burnt wood and began to draw. He drew circles, lines, and a tall shape like the stone. He added dots like stars and long lines between them. The others watched in silence. He did not know it, but the stone was alien. Far above the earth, inside the Alari ship, alarms were ringing. "The probe has been found," Velik said. Solon looked at the screen. "It was not supposed to be there." Turan walked in quickly. "It must have fallen from an old scout. It was hidden. We did not expect them to reach it." "They touched it," Velik said. "It reacted. It sent data. Did it harm him?" asked Solon. "No," Velik replied. "It only read his thoughts. Then it stored his DNA." Terran's face was serious. "Then the message has been written." Back in the cave, Koja sat by the glowing stone. He felt something in his chest, not fear, not hunger, but a deep desire to understand. The stone gave no words, no sounds, but his heart felt full. Lena touched the stone next. It did not glow for her. She looked at Koja. Somehow she knew. This stone had spoken only to him. Outside the cave, the stars began to rise. That night, Koja did not sleep. He kept drawing. On the walls of the cave, new patterns appeared, spirals, lines that met, shapes that repeated. He began to use both hands. His body moved without thought. His mind was awake. In the morning, the group returned to the main camp. The others gathered to see what they had found. Koja picked up a flat stone and copied the patterns. Lena helped. They placed the stone near the fire, where all could see. It became a symbol, a reminder of the cave and the glowing stone. That day, the group worked together in new ways. They placed stones in circles. They marked the ground with lines. They shaped sticks with care. Everything was more organized. The black stone had not given them fire or food, but it had given them something else, ordered. In the Alari ship. The Council of Elders gathered. They have made contact with ancient tech, Solon said. They were not supposed to find it, one elder replied. But they did, Velek said. And they did not fear it. They understood it in their own way. Taran stood calmly. This changes nothing. We do not guide. We do not interfere. They will grow on their own. They are already growing, Velek said. Look at them. They organize, they protect, they remember. They are not just creatures now. They are becoming something more. Back on Earth, the camp had changed. Koja now taught the young ones how to shape stones not just for cutting, but for building. They made small walls from stone and mud. They placed them in circles. They created a safe space for food, tools, and fire. Lena helped the group arrange their tools by size and shape. Even the elders joined the work. Each person had a place, a task, and a role. At night, Koja sat by the fire. He held the stone with the carved patterns. He stared at the flames, then at the stars. He could not explain it, but he knew this was only the beginning. The mountain, the black stone, the symbols, they were all part of something bigger. He felt it in his bones. Not fear, not hunger, but purpose. And far above, the watchers continued to observe. Quiet, unseen, and still. But now they too felt something. A question. And hope. The dry season had lasted too long. Water was low, and food was harder to find. The small lakes had turned to mud. The roots had dried. Even the animals had moved away. Koja's group had grown thin and tired. One morning, Koja stood at the top of the rocky hill. He looked to the west and saw something far away. It was a line of green trees. The trees meant water. But between his group and the trees was a wide, deep river. Its water moved fast, and large stones poked from its surface. No one in the group had crossed it before. Koja went back to the group and made simple sounds. He pointed west, then made wave-like motions with his hand. The others looked at the sky, the trees, and the dry land around them. They understood. They had to move. So the group walked. Elders, children, strong ones and weak ones, all followed Koja. Lena helped carry the children. They shared roots and small berries as they walked. On the second day, they reached the river. It was wide. The water made strong sounds as it moved. Some animals drank from the edges. Others crossed at narrow parts by jumping from rock to rock. The group sat under the trees and waited. Koja walked along the bank, looking for a safe place. There was none. The river was deep, and the current was strong. One child threw a stick into the water, and it disappeared quickly. That night, they sat near the trees and shared what little food they had. Koja sat apart thinking. He looked at the water, then at the trees behind them. He knew they could not stay here long. In the stars above, the Alari ship hovered silently. Inside, Velek and Solon studied the river. This is a great test, Solon said. They must cross or turn back. Turning back means hunger, Velek said. Crossing means danger. Taran, the elder Alari, looked at the screen. Let them choose. This is their path. We only watch. On Earth, Koja had an idea. He took a thick branch and placed it in the water. It floated. Then he added 2 more and held them together with long grass. The branches floated as one. Lena watched. She smiled and brought more sticks. Together they tied thick branches with grass and vines. Others came to help. They worked quietly and quickly. In the morning, they had a rough raft. It was not strong, but it could float. Koja pushed the raft into the water. It bobbed gently. He stepped on it, holding a long stick. The group watched with wide eyes. He pushed the stick into the water to guide the raft. Slowly, it moved forward. Halfway across, the raft tilted. Koja bent low to balance. The river pushed hard, but he reached the other side. He stepped off and raised his hand. The group cheered with simple sounds. One by one, they crossed. The children went first, held by the older ones. Lena helped guide them. 2 trips, then 3. Some fell into the water, but were pulled back up. It was not easy, but they worked as one. One young boy slipped into the current. He cried out. Koja jumped into the water. His arms moved fast, cutting through the waves. He reached the boy and pulled him up. Together, they reached the shore. The group clapped and made joyful sounds. The fire in their hearts was alive again, dot in the sky. The Alari watched the rescue. He jumped without fear, Velek said. To save the child, Sullen nodded. They do not just think. They care. Terran's voice was calm, emotion with action. That is the path to growth. Now on the other side of the river, the group rested. The land was green. Trees gave shade. Fruits hung from the branches. Small animals moved in the grass. They had found a better place. They made new shelters under the trees. They made fire again. They built new tools. Koja taught the younger ones how to shape stones. Lena helped them build with sticks and leaves. The children laughed again. The elders smiled. That evening, Koja picked up a flat stone and drew the river. He marked the line of water, the floating raft, and the shapes of the people. It was not a perfect drawing, but it told a story. It said we crossed. We survived, we are strong. The others added their marks. The stone became a record dot far above. The Alari watched. They remember their journey, Sullen said. They are telling stories. Telling without words, Velek said, but with meaning. Turin looked at the stars beyond the ship. This is how history begins. That night, Koja lay near the fire. The river now behind him, the stars above. His eyes closed slowly, but his mind was awake. In his dream, he stood on a tall mountain. The sky opened before him. Lights moved above, silent and wide. He saw stars and shapes that felt familiar. He felt no fear, only wonder. He did not know the names of the stars, but he knew this truth. There was more to come. The days grew warmer and the sky stayed clear. Koja's group had now made a safe home near the rocky hills. They no longer moved each day. With fire, sharp stones, and teamwork, they had begun to settle. The group was stronger, calmer, and closer. Every evening, they sat around the fire. Some carved shapes into soft bark or on stone walls. Others made new tools or cleaned food. There was no true language yet, but they had learned to speak with looks, sounds, and movement. Their eyes were brighter. Their hands moved with purpose. Koja and Lena often worked side by side. Lena was clever. She could shape stones into better tools. She had even tied a stone to a stick using long, dry grass. It worked as a cutting axe. The others copied her idea. They now had a new kind of tool. One evening, as the sun began to fall, the sky changed. A light appeared. It was not the sun or the moon. It moved fast, leaving a thin line behind it. It made no sound. It flew across the sky and vanished behind the trees. The group looked up, quiet and still. Some gasped. One child pointed. Koja stood up. His eyes followed the strange light. He did not understand what it was, but something inside him felt drawn to it. That night he could not sleep. He looked at the stars and remembered the light. It was different. It was not part of nature. It was something new. High above, the Alari ship moved quietly. Inside, the watchers studied a new report. A probe had entered the sky. It was not meant to be seen. It had come to scan brain signals from Koja's group, but it had passed too close. It left a trail of light. They saw it, said Velek. His voice was soft, worried. They do not know what it was, said Solon. But it made them wonder, Velek said. And wondering is dangerous. Taran, the elder, entered the room. "Do we remove the probe?" "No," Valak said. "It is too late. Let us see what they do next." On Earth, Koja woke before sunrise. He walked away from the group and climbed the small hill. The air was cool, the wind light. He looked at the sky, still dark with stars. He picked up a flat stone and began carving again. But this time, he made something new, a shape like the flying light. Long and curved, with lines behind it. When he finished, he sat still. Behind him, Lena came. She sat beside him and touched the shape. She made a sound, soft and thoughtful. Koja nodded. The two sat in silence, watching the sky. Later that day, Koja began to draw in the dirt. He made circles and lines. He used sticks and stones. The others watched. Children played with the shapes. One elder copied the drawings on bark. It was the start of symbols, simple pictures that carried meaning. Far above, Valak watched the signals from Koja's brain. He is remembering the shape. He is repeating it. He is connecting it to ideas, Valak said. They are building shared memory, Sullen added. The beginnings of a language. It is still early, Taran said, but this is not normal. They are making symbols, Valak repeated. No creature before them has done this at this level. The Ilari could feel it. Something was different about this group. They were not just learning. They were reaching for something beyond their world. That night, Koja sat by the fire with Lena. He picked up a burned stick and rubbed it on a flat rock. A dark mark appeared. He smiled. He drew the flying light again, long, bright, moving across the sky. The group gathered. Some pointed, some made sounds. One child clapped. They were beginning to share ideas not just through tools, but through images. The rock became a message. The next day, the group found new food near a lake. They worked together to gather roots, fish, and berries. One young boy fell and hurt his arm. Koja helped him up and cleaned the wound with water. The others watched. It was a small act, but it showed something important, care. The Ilari recorded. This too. They are not just smart, Valak said. They are kind. Taran remained quiet. He stared at the screen for a long time. They will change this world, he finally said. One day, they may even leave it. Back on Earth, the drawings on rocks began to grow. Koja and Lena used fire-blackened sticks to mark the walls of their small cave. Circles, lines, and shapes appeared. Some of the symbols looked like animals. Others looked like stars. The group began to sit quietly each night, watching Koja draw. They were not just surviving. They were beginning to remember. The Ilari had seen many worlds. They had watched countless species. Most lived, ate, fought, and died. But Koja's kind was different. They asked questions without words. They dreamed without knowing why. Late one night, Koja stood on the hill once again. He looked at the sky, now full of stars. He held his stone in hand. The wind touched his face. He did not speak, but he felt it in his chest. There was something out there. He could not name it, but he would not forget it. The land had grown dry. The sun stayed longer in the sky, and the rain had not come for many days. Waterholes turned to mud. The tall grass turned brown. The animals moved away, and food became harder to find. Koja's group grew tired. The elders walked slower. The children cried more often. Even the strong hunters returned empty-handed. Their sharp stones still worked, but there was less to hunt. One night, as the group rested near a rocky hill, a deep growl came from the darkness. Eyes watched them from behind the trees. It was a big cat, fast, silent, and hungry. The group stood close together. They made noise with their stones and sticks, trying to scare it. But the cat stayed near. It waited. Koja knew they were not safe. He looked around and saw a pile of dry grass near the rocks. An idea came to him, not through words but through feeling. He picked up 2 stones and struck them together. A small spark jumped, nothing more. He tried again, then again. The 3rd time, the spark touched the grass. A tiny smoke trail rose. He blew gently. The grass turned black, then red, then bright orange. Fire. The group jumped back. Some cried out. The big cat stopped. It growled low, then turned and ran into the trees. The flames rose higher. Warm light filled the dark space. Koja stepped back too, his eyes wide, full of both fear and wonder. The group slowly moved closer again. One child reached out, but an elder pulled him back. They all sat around it, staring. It was bright, warm, and alive. Koja had brought the first fire. Far above, in the orbiting ship, the Ilari were silent. He made fire, Velek said softly. Another Ilari sullen, leaned forward, without help, without spark stones, just with instinct. Velek nodded. It was no accident. He kept trying. He knew what he was doing. Taran, the elder among them, stood still. His voice was calm. This is a turning point. They can now chase away predators, Solon said. They can cook, Velek added. They can keep warm. They can stay in one place longer. Taran looked at the screen again. They are no longer just part of nature. They are beginning to shape it. On Earth, the fire burned through the night. The group stayed awake. They felt safe near it. The warmth gave them peace. A few took turns, adding sticks to keep it alive. They began to understand that the fire needed to be fed, just like they did. The next morning, the fire was low, but still there. Smoke rose from the ashes. Koja picked up a stick and stirred the embers. A small flame appeared again. He smiled and added more grass. The fire returned. The group cheered with happy sounds. Even the children laughed. That day, they cooked meat for the first time. The smell filled the air. They took careful bites. The food was softer and easier to chew. The elders ate with joy. The fire had not only brought safety, but also better. Food. Lena sat beside Koja. She touched his hand and gave him a small stone. It was smooth and round. Koja held it in his palm, feeling its warmth from the firelight. He looked at her and smiled. The bond between them had grown stronger. Later that evening, Koja gathered stones and placed them in a circle around the fire. He was building a safe place for the flames, a kind of home for the fire. Others helped. They copied him. They learned by watching. The fire became the heart of their group. On the ship above, the Ilari watched closely. They are building patterns, said Solon. Stone circles, said Vilek. Simple shapes. But it is the beginning of design. Turin stood in thought. Fire gave them more than heat. It gave them time. Now they do not need to run from the dark. They can sit, they can think, they can share ideas. They are building a mind together, Velek added. A group mind. Night came again. The fire burned bright. Around it, Koja began to move his hands in the air. He made shapes. He pointed to the stars, then to the ground. He picked up a stick and drew in the dirt. Lena copied the lines with her finger. One child made a sound, not a word, but something new. The group was not just surviving anymore. They were creating. They were imagining. Velek turned to Taran. Have you seen this before, in your years of watching? Taran shook his head. Not like this, not this early. Velek smiled. Then perhaps we are watching the first steps of something great. Taran gave a small nod. Perhaps. On Earth, the fire crackled softly. The group lay near it, warm and safe. Koja sat awake, still looking at the flames. The light danced in his eyes. He did not understand everything, but he felt something inside. A question, a hope, a dream. In his mind, he saw shapes and lines. He saw stars and circles. He felt the need to build more, to learn more. Far above, the ship moved slowly across the sky. Its lights were hidden. Its engines were quiet. The watchers did not speak, but they all felt the same thought. The fire has started, and it would never go out. Days passed, and the warm sun of the African land continued to rise and fall. Koja's group moved slowly through the savannah, searching for food and safety. They were not the strongest animals in the land, but they were learning fast. Every day, more of them used sharp stones to cut, break, and shape the world around them. Koja had become a quiet leader. He did not speak many words. No one in the group truly spoke, but they shared looks, sounds, and movements. Koja shared his stones and showed others how to use them. The group began to trust him. He was not the biggest or strongest, but he was different. He saw things others missed. One afternoon, Koja walked alone along a dry riverbed. He bent down and picked up 2 stones. He hit them together. One broke and a sharp piece flew off. Koja picked it up and turned it in his hand. It felt right. It could cut better than the others. He had made something new. Far above, in the dark silence of space, the alien ship floated. The Alari watchers were still watching. Inside the ship, the air was calm, still, and quiet. Everything was clean and smooth. No chairs, no doors, only glowing walls and soft voices. Vilek, the young Alari scientist, stood in front of a round screen. On it, Koja's face appeared clearly. Every movement was recorded. Every sound was measured. The ship's machines read the heat of his body, the motion of his hands, and even the tiny waves in his brain. He is creating more often now, Velek said. Pointing at the screen, a taller Ilari named Solon stepped forward. That one is leading the others. They watch him. They follow, Velek nodded. They learn quickly, and they share what they learn. Solon looked thoughtful. This is unusual. We have watched many creatures. Some make sounds. Some use rocks, but this group is doing more. They are changing, Velek said. Back on Earth, the group had stopped near a small forest. Koja led them to a shady place under a tall tree. They sat and rested. The day was hot, and the sun was bright. A young female named Lena sat beside Koja. She had always watched him from a distance. Today, she brought him a smooth stone. Koja turned it over in his hand. It was flat, good for holding. He smiled and touched her shoulder softly. She smiled back. She had not spoken, but her action had meaning. Together, they sat and worked on the stones. Lena hit one against another and made a small blade. Koja nodded. She was learning fast. In the alien ship, the Alari were silent for a long time. Did you see that? Solon asked. Velek replied, yes, they are showing signs of emotion, kindness, cooperation. These signs are not common at this stage, Solon said. It means something, Velek said. They are not just surviving. They are beginning to connect. Another Alari, named Tarin, entered the room. He was older than the others. His voice was soft but strong. You speak as if they are more than animals, Tarin said. They may be, Velek answered. They may be something new. Tarin looked at the screen. Koja and Lena were now showing the younger ones how to shape stones. The children watched closely, copying their moves. Some laughed. One clapped his hands. Ren frowned. We are only here to watch, nothing more. We do not guide. I know, Velek said. We are only watchers. But what if we are watching the birth of something great? Back on Earth, night came again. The stars filled the sky like tiny fires. Koja looked up and sat on a rock. He stared at the stars with wide eyes. He did not understand them, but he felt drawn to them. They gave him a strange feeling, something between wonder and peace. That night, Koja dreamed. In his dream, he stood alone in a wide open space. The sky above him glowed, not with sun, but with strange lights. Shapes moved across the sky. He heard soft sounds, not words, but tones. Music, perhaps. He felt a pull, like something was calling him. He woke just before dawn. The world was still quiet. Only the wind moved the tall grass. Koja walked to a nearby tree. With his sharp stone, he carved a shape into the bark. It was not a picture. Not really. It was just a line and a curve. But it stayed there. It would not vanish with the wind. He stepped back and looked at it. Something inside him whispered. Not in words, but in feelings. Remember. Inside the Ilari ship, Velek stood before the Council of Elders. The Ilari leaders sat in silence, their forms glowing softly in the dim light. This one they call Koja, Velek said. He is dreaming. He is carving. He is sharing. These are not the signs of a simple species. The elders listened. Number. One spoke at first. Then one said, "Many creatures rise and fall. Perhaps they will too," Velek answered. Perhaps. But they are already building something no beast has ever built. And what is that? The elder asked. A future, Velek said. Back on Earth, Koja sat beside the tree with the carved mark. Lena sat beside him. The two looked at the sky as morning light began to rise. The world was still old, wild, and full of danger. But something new had begun. Not in the stones, not in the tools, but in the minds and hearts of these early people. And high above, the hidden eyes kept watching. The sun rose slowly over the African savanna. Warm golden light touched the dry grass, the scattered trees, and the wide blue sky. The land was full of life. Herds of animals moved in the distance. Birds flew above in calm circles. Somewhere, near a rocky hill, a small group of early humans gathered. They were Homo habilis, not quite like modern humans, but not animals either. They walked on 2 feet, used their hands, and lived in small family groups. One young male, named Koja, sat alone beside a flat rock. His eyes looked sharp, not wild. He held a hard stone in one hand and a nut in the other. The nut was strong and hard to open. The group had left many such nuts behind before. They had no way to crack them. But Koja was curious. He hit the nut with the stone. It didn't break. He hit it again harder. Still nothing. Then he picked a sharper rock. This one had edges. He struck once more. The nut cracked open. Koja stared. The white soft part inside looked good. He touched it, sniffed it, then tasted it. It was food. It was sweet. He smiled. Then he looked at the sharp stone in his hand. He had not made it to be sharp. But now he noticed the edge. It had a point. He felt it. It could cut. He picked up a piece of old meat left by a lion. Carefully, he scraped it with the sharp stone. The skin came off. He was amazed. This was new. This was different. Others in his group noticed. One old female came closer. She watched Koja cut the meat. A child stood behind a tree and peeked. Then another young male walked up and took a sharp rock too. He copied Koja and scraped a root. It worked. Koja had started something, even if he didn't know it yet. Far above Earth, something unseen watched all of this. In the blackness of space, hidden behind the curve of the Earth, a silent silver ship floated. It had no lights, no noise, and no movement. It was not from Earth. It belonged to the Ilari Watchers, an ancient alien race. They had come to observe life on different planets. They never touched. They only watched. Inside the ship, one Ilari, named Velek, stared at a screen. It showed Koja and his group in real time. Every movement was recorded. Every thought, every signal from the brain was measured. When Koja had cracked the nut, the machine had beeped. A new kind of energy had appeared in his brain, the start of complex thinking. Something has changed, Velek said to the others. His voice was calm but curious. Another Ilari, older and taller, answered, "It is early. The planet is still young. These creatures should not be this fast." Velek disagreed. "They are not fast. They are just aware. Look at them. They learn. They share. Back on Earth, Koja had now gathered 5 sharp stones. He had a small pile. Others were doing the same. Some made noise to call their friends. Some laughed. They didn't have full language yet, but they had sounds and meaning. For the first time, they were teaching each other how to use tools. That evening, the group sat near the river. Koja used a stone to break more nuts. Others used them to cut roots, scrape meat, or dig small holes. A female used a rock to smash a bug. The young ones copied everything. The group was alive with motion and learning. In the sky above, the stars started to shine. Koja lay on his back, looking up. The stars looked like white dots. He didn't know what they were, but he liked them. He dreamed of them. His mind was not like that of an ape. It was deeper. It could imagine. On the Ilari ship, Velik looked at the data again. His brain is changing, he said. He is dreaming now. Not just sleeping. He is imagining things that do not exist. Another Ilari frowned. That is not supposed to happen yet. They were not on the list of rising species. They are early, Velik smiled gently. That is why we watch. Some fires start without warning. The next morning, Koja woke early. He climbed the small hill behind the river and looked out. He saw animals moving in groups. He saw the sky turn blue. He saw the world waking up. He felt something deep in his chest. It was not fear. It was not hunger. It was something else. A question maybe. Or a hope. He took one of his sharp stones and carved a line into a tree. Just one line. It had no meaning, not yet, but it stayed there. He looked at it for a long time. Then he walked back to his group, holding the stone tightly. Something had started. It was not fire. It was not a machine. It was a thought, and it had weight.